Ruchim Havoyim, welcome everyone. To extend Hakaras Hatov to our learning sponsors, a year of learning sponsored by the Wolverton Friends of Rabbi Yasker, in memory of his beloved father, Harold Yasker, Tzvi Hirsch ben Yecheskel. A year by the Learning Friends in memory of Saul Chapman, Yisrael Kalman ben Moshe. A year of learning by the Friends of Judy Garber in her memory, Yehudis bat Shalom. A month of learning sponsored by B. Pizer in memory of her mother, Razel bat Shammai. A month by Melvin and Haran Haller in memory of his mother, Vega bat Yaakov. A month by B. Pizer in memory of her stepfather, Avram Michal ben Shmuel Halevi. A day of learning sponsored by Mimi Schiff in memory of her mother, Chaya bat Daniel. May the Neshamos have an aliyah. So today we're going to go back a little bit today because I think that where I left it was not exactly clear. We're in Masechta Megillah, we're in the third parak, we're on Daf Chaf Beis, that's Daf 22a, and we're gonna start from there. So if you are viewing this online, if you are on Facebook, you can find us under Talmud Without Fear, or you can look for my name, David Cheslow. If you're on Twitter, it's hashtag Talmud Without Fear. On YouTube, you can look for me or Talmud Without Fear as well. So living here in Florida, we don't pay too much attention to the weather report up north, but I happen to see it. They're expecting 6 inches of snow in parts of New Jersey this week, so we don't have to worry about that down here. Of course, having seen the weather report, I saw another report, news report, that a particular deli was going to be naming a sandwich after a politician who I will not name. And the special thing about that sandwich is that you have to eat it under the table. Under the table. Right. So starting at Chaf Beis Amud Aleph, where you have the flag marking in the Hebrew and in the English. So the Gemara says, Zeh HaKlal. The Mishnah says rather, Zeh HaKlal Kol Sheyesh Musaf. So it's trying to determine or to tell us what days of the when the Torah is being read, what days do they call 4 people up? So the Mishnah says any day which has a Musaf added to it will have a 4th person. So the Gemara asks, Ibayalahu, Tanis Tzibur B'chama. So therefore, since Tanis Tzibur, a public fast day, is not mentioned in the Mishnah, and the Mishnah says a day that has a Musaf has 4, therefore, how many do we consider for a Tanis for a fast day? Rosh Chodesh Umoed Dika Korban Musaf Arba'ah. So Rosh Chodesh, which has a Musaf, right? We know that we daven Musaf on Rosh Chodesh, and same thing with Chol HaMoed, we daven Musaf on Chol HaMoed. So those have 4. That fits in with the rule of the Mishnah. Avahacha, but here, a public fast day, the Leka Korban Musaf, there is no Musaf on a fast day. Lo. So you would think that it only would be 3 people called up because there is no Musaf holding to this rule. O Dilma, or maybe we could say Hacha Nami Ika Musaf, because on a Tanis Tzibur, on a fast day, there's no Musaf Korban or no Musaf Shmona Esrei as such, but we do have extra things that we say, right? We say Anenu, we say Avinu Malkeinu, and all that. So since we are saying extra things that we don't normally say, so you could say that there is sort of a Musaf. So Ika Musaf Tefillah, there's more Tefillos being said on a fast day, and therefore that could maybe fit into the category of 4. Tashma, so come in here, Barashi Chadashim, Ubechulo Shamoed Korin Arba, but it also mentions that on Rosh Chodesh and on Chol HaMoed, the Mishnah says, 4 people read. So we could understand from that, right? Whenever the Mishnah makes a statement, including certain objects, certain items, that means certain others are excluded. So if it says Rosh Chodesh 4, so maybe we could understand from that on Tanis Tzibur, but Tanis Tzibur Shlosha. So on a fast day, 3. So basically, what we're saying is we can't learn from this Mishnah whether there's 3 or 4, because we have statements which tend to indicate 3 or 4. So Ema Resha, the first part of the Mishnah says B'Sheni B'Chamishi, on Monday or Thursday, B'Shabbos Mincha, and on Mincha time on Shabbos, we read the Torah as well. Korin Shlosha, 3 people read. Ha Tanis Tzibur arba. So therefore, you might think that on a fast day, since it's not mentioned, so the Mishnah mentions the ones that are 3, which is Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos afternoon. So maybe that fast day should be 4. Ella mehal leka lemishma mine. So basically, it's saying that the Mishnah does not give us a clue. So Toshma, now they're trying to learn from an incident that took place and try to understand what happened. What, Marty?
I don't understand what the complication of the Gemara is, why it's searching for all these reasons. The reason is simple. Musaf was a carbon, so any day you brought a carbon, an extra carbon, that's the day you instead, now that there's no carbon, you read 4.
Right, that's the
Gemara twisting itself all around?
well, because that's the principle as stated in the Mishnah, but the Gemara has said not necessarily to twist itself around, because that's not an uncommon occurrence where it seems like things are twisted. But the point is, pardon?
To make you think, that's why it's just twisted around.
Part of it is to make you think, and that's true. And some people say that's why Jews are successful in law and business and so on, because they have that kind of mind. But what the Gemara is trying to get at is what is the rule? Because since the Mishnah does not tell us whether we read 3 or 4 on the fast day, so they're trying to understand from statements that the Mishnah does make, what should our rule be? So it says that and by the way, it doesn't say korban musaf or tefillas musaf. It just says yesh ba musaf. So you could understand that to mean that it does have a musaf shmona esrei or a musaf korban, or you can understand it to mean that since there are extra tefillas being added on those days, therefore the tanis, the fast day, does not fall into that category. So of course we all know what the rule is, but apparently you can't learn it from this particular Mishnah. So let's see if we can understand what's going on from a particular incident that took place and try to learn from the behavior of the tzaddikim and see how maybe we can understand from there. The Rav Ikla Labavel Batanis Sibur. So Rav, who lived in Eretz Yisrael, and he was the greatest personality of his day, traveled to Bavel, to Babylonia, on a day that happened to be a public fast day. So now, what did he do? How did he conduct himself? Kam Krab Sifra. So he was called up to the Torah, and he had an aliyah to the Torah. Pasach Brich, when he started, he made the bracha. Now, if you remember, we had a discussion about that, whether you make a bracha before, you make a bracha after. So he made the bracha before, Chasim v'lo brich, and he finished reading and did not make a bracha afterwards. So that's already quite a question. Next thing he did is Nafal Kuli Alma an Paihu. The entire congregation fell on their face to basically said Tachanun, right? We say Tachanun every day. That's not a holiday. In fact, we did not say Tachanun today because it's Purim Katan, right? Because this year happens to be a leap year, and today is the day of the month of Adar that would be Purim if we had only one Adar. So since there is a second Adar, next month we're going to be celebrating Purim, but we commemorate it in a certain way today by not saying Tachanun on Purim Katan. But anyway, so Rav.
I say tomorrow too.
Tomorrow also, because it's Shushan Purim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't say Thanksgiving.
Okay. So anyway, we'll see what, I haven't paid attention in previous, I've never been here in a leap year before, so I don't know what the minhag of the shul is. But in any event, we sort of got off onto a tangent there. But anyhow, so everybody in the congregation leaned over, put their face down to say Tachanun. Rav didn't do it. So Rav lo nafal al ape. Rav did not fall on his face. So Miti, let's examine what actually happened. Rav b'Yisrael kara. So Rav must have read the portion that Yisrael reads, or was called up for that, because Rav, we know, was not a Kohen, right? So my time of chasim v'lo baruch. So why did he end up? So in other words, if you're going to say that the reason that he did not make a concluding bracha was because someone was going to be coming after him, right? But we know that on a fast day, it's supposed to be only 3 people called up, and he was the Yisrael, so there's nobody coming after him. So why did he not make a bracha at the end? Lab mishum deboy lemikri achrina basrei. Maybe it's because someone else is coming after him, right? And then that person would make the concluding bracha. So the Gemara says, lo. It says, Rav Bekahana Kroy. Rav actually was called up or read from the portion that a Kohen would read. Rav was not a Kohen, but he was called up for the first Aliyah. Doha, and how do we know that he did that happened? To Rav Huna Kori Bekahani. Because Rav Huna, who was a student of Rav and actually was his successor as the head of the yeshiva, when the time came for reading the Torah, they would call up Rav Huna first, even though he was not a Kohen. And Bishlama Rav Huna Kari Bekahani, he would read the portion that normally a Kohen would read. Da'afila Rav Ami Rav Asi, even though Rav Ami and Rav Asi, students of his, who were great in their own right, to Kahani Chashiv at Ari Yisrael, they were the prime Kohanim in Eretz Yisrael, and yet he read the portion that the Kohen should read. So make of Kaifile le Rav Huna. They showed deference to Rav Huna. So even though they were Kohanim, he was greater, and they deferred to him. Ela Rav, but Rav Hoika Shmuel. There was Shmuel who was, I guess, equivalent in scholarship to Rav. So and Shmuel de Kahana Hava. He was a Kohen. Udavarale. So he could certainly have been called up to be the Kohen. So Shmuel Nami Mekav Hava Kaifle, the Rav. So Shmuel also would defer to Rav, because actually Rav has a slightly higher status than Shmuel, because they both were transitional figures. They lived in the time when we went from the Tanoim to the Amoraim, and there's a principle that says Rav Tana Opalik, that Rav is the only one who can actually argue with a Tana. So Shmuel would defer to Rav. For Rav would avad le kavod, and so Rav would give Shmuel kavod, v'ki avad le b'fanav. But when Shmuel was in shul, Rav would allow Shmuel to have the aliyah as a kohen. Shelo b'fanav lo avad le. But when Shmuel was not there, Rav would get the first aliyah. Okay, so let's still try to figure out what actually happened. Hachinami mistaber to Rav Kahani cross. So you're going to say that Rav read the first portion that a Kohen would read. Because if you think that he read the third one, which was going to be for Yisrael, Lefanea my tamabar. So why did he make the first bracha? Right? So if as we learned, that used to be that one person would make the first bracha, then he would read, then the second one would read, then the third one would read, and that third one would make the final bracha. Not like the way we do it today, where each person makes the first and second bracha. So those days, the first one would make the first bracha, and the third one would make the bracha. So why? So if you're going to say that Rav came third, why did he make that opening bracha? So they say la'achar takana. That was after the rule was changed, right? So the way that we do it now, that's the way it was then. So each person would make a bracha. Ihachi. So if so, la'achareh nami liv. So he should have made the final bracha too. Right? Because if you're going to say that each person made a bracha for himself, he was called up third, he made the opening bracha, why didn't he make the closing bracha? So it says, Shani Hacha Yasiv Rav, because it was different where Rav was in shul to Ma'il Aili, Meipak Lo Nafki. So people would come in late at times in Rav's shul. So he would make sure to say the bracha beforehand, but Meipak Lo Nafki, but they didn't leave early. So to say the same issue, the Sefer Torah was open, they didn't walk out of shul. So he wasn't concerned about making the final bracha as he was about making the opening bracha. So we still don't really know. So Tashma, Zakla, here's the rule. Kol sheyesh bo bitul malacha la'am, any day where the people's ability to work, and there's a normal work day, and if we extended the services too long, it would interfere with people going to work. So in that case, could go in Tanis Tibur V'Tisha B'Av, Korin Shlosha. So on a day when you're allowed to work, like you are allowed to work on a fast day, public fast day, you are allowed to work on Tisha B'Av. So 3 people would be called up, so as not to prolong the service. So you're going to ask me, well, how come there's a Haftorah on a fast day and on Tisha B'Av? And if I have time at the end, I'm going to read you a little bit from those Haftorahs, and you're going to see why those particular Haftorahs happen to be read on a public fast day and on Tisha B'Av. V'she'ein bo bitul malacha la'am, and on a day when you're not interfering with people's work day, because they used to be accustomed that people did not work on Chol HaMoed. It's even extended today. Some women don't believe in don't work on Chol HaMoed, and apparently back then even some of the men did not work, not Chol HaMoed, did not work on Rosh Chodesh. So didn't work on Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, that you were not interfering with someone's work day by extending the length of the service. So you weren't worried about calling a fourth person and all of the folderol that went along with that, because people were not going to work anyway, so they weren't in such a rush to leave. And the same thing with Chol HaMoed, that some people most people I guess, do not have the custom to go to work on Chol HaMoed. So those days, they read 4. Shema Minoah. So from this we can conclude that that's the reason why we read 3 on a fast, and of course 4 we read on the Rosh Chodesh and on Chol HaMoed. Omer Rav Ashi says, V'anan lo tanan hachi. He said, but I didn't learn that. He says, Zeh klal, kol yom sheyesh v'musaf, ein yom tov koren habo. I just learned very simply, it's like what Marty said a little while ago, a day that has musaf, it's not yontif, you call up 4 people. La suye mai, what is that coming to include? Lav la suye tanis sibur of Tisha B'Av. So maybe it's coming to include, again, that fast day and Tisha B'Av. So then we're back to the same question again. Ula Rav Ashi mas nisan mani. So if Rav Ashi says that's the way it goes, who could have been the author of this Mishnah? He's lo Tana Kama v'lo Rav Yossi. It can't be the first Tana, who's the anonymous Tana, and it can't be Rav Yossi. Can't be Rav Yossi either. The Sanya, because we learn Chal Lios b'Sheni b'Chamishi Korin Shlosha u'Mafter Echad. So if the fast day came out on a Monday or a Thursday, listen to this, 3 people would read, 1 of them would read the Haftorah. But Shlishi Revi, suppose the fast day came out on a day when the Torah was not normally read, Tuesday or Wednesday, Kori Echad or Mafter Echad. 1 person would get called up to the Torah on that fast day, and he would also read the Haftorah. So unlike what we do, we don't do it that way. We always, no matter what day of the week the fast day comes out, 3 people read and 1 of them reads the Haftorah. Rav Yossi Omer, Rav Yossi says, Olam Korin Shlosha Umafter Echad. He said, no, Rav Yossi's opinion is that always, whenever there's a fast day, the way we do it, 3 people get called up, and 1 of them reads the Haftorah. So again, the question is that the Haftorah does take time, and we'll get to that later. Vela Kasha Zaklal. So do we remain with that question that they state this is the rule? Law. The Gemara says no. La Suya Rosh Chodesh and Moed. That is to include Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed. And the Gemara asks very simply, that it says in the Mishnah, Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed. And they answer, Rosh Chodesh and Moed Koren Haba. They read 4. Simon Ba'amayo. That's basically a mnemonic device. It's to help you to remember when the numbers of people are read. It says that Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed is 4. You shouldn't think that Yom Tov and Chol HaMoed are the same. That's why the Mishnah bothers to mention Chol HaMoed in terms of the 4. Ela Nekot Hai Klal of Yoda. But take this rule in your hand. So remember this, and the Mishnah is trying to give you a mnemonic to remember this. Kol de Tafele Milsa Mechavre Tafele Gavri. So every day that is special from other days in a particular way, another person reads. For example, Hilkach Rosh Chodesh and Moed, Deika Karba Musaf. Every Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed, which has a Karba Musaf, as opposed to every other day of the month, Korin Arba, we read 4. Okay, normally on a regular day when we read the Torah, we read 3. If it turns out that weekday is Rosh Chodesh or it's Chol HaMoed, that's an extra characteristic, right? So then we read 4. But Yom Tov, Aser Basiyas Malacha, Yom Tov adds a new restriction. What is it? That you don't work on Yom Tov, right? On Chol HaMoed, which is a part of the holiday, but you are permitted to work. So that one is 3, is 4 rather. Now Yom Tov, since you have that additional restriction that you don't work, now it's 5 that people get called up. Chamisha. Yom Kippurim Onesh Kares Shisha. Yom Kippur, if you work on Yom Kippur, the punishment for that is kares, which is translated as early death, or you have no children, whatever it is. Kares means you're cut off, but that is a punishment that comes from on high. We don't do that ourselves, and that adds an additional layer. So Yom Kippur 6, Shabbos Ika Isur Skila. On Shabbos, if you violate Shabbos, there is the punishment of skila, stoning, and therefore Shabbos Shiva. So now you've added Shabbos, which is the strongest, the strictest, 7 people. Okay, so we've kind of figured out what we read on what day and why, and now we still have that question about Rav's behavior, how he acted when he took that trip and he went to Bavel and he showed up in Shul over there. Getting back to that, so the Gemara says Gufa, going back to the text, Rav Ikla LeBavel Batanas Tibur. So Rav went to Bavel on a public fast day. Kam Kraba Sifra, he got up to read the Torah. Pasach Brich, he started out with a bracha. Chasam Velo Brich. He finished his reading without making a bracha. Nafal Kuli Alma An Payu, and the congregation, everybody fell on their faces or bowed down to say Tachanun. V'Ravlo nafal al anpei, and Rav did not apparently say Tachanun with the congregation. My taima Ravlo nafal al anpei. Why did Rav not do what everyone else did? The whole congregation was saying Tachanun. Why was Rav not doing it? So the answer, Ritzvah shel Avanim Hois, it was a stone floor, and there is a pasuk. Tanya, we learn, that a carved floor or a stone floor, you should not bow down on it. And the Gemara understands that to mean, in your precincts, in your neighborhoods, you can't bow down on a stone floor. But we know in the base of Mikdash, what happened, right? It's the famous story that people stood packed in, and yet they had enough room to bow down. We know that they bowed down on the floor of the base of Mikdash, which was not carpet like we have here, right? It was a stone.
It was a limited space, and yet it's expanded just like.
Exactly right. That's very famous. But the point is, the point is that there was a stone floor, and we know that they bowed down. On the stone.
Maybe it wasn't stone. Maybe it was tile, because they put down tiles in those days.
Right, but the floor of the base mix, we know that it was a stone floor, and we're not going to probably get to this here, but maybe another time we'll talk about the base mikdash and the dimensions and so on. Maybe we'll do it in another.
So how is it that the other people bowed down?
Oh, that's a good question. We're going to get to the answer. That's very good. Thank you. So we know that the floor of the base of Mikdash was a stone floor, and so you're not allowed to bow down on a stone floor except in the base of Mikdash. Kid'ula, and this is according to the opinion of Ula. The Amar Ula said, Lo asra Torah ela ritzba shel havanim bilvad. The Torah only prohibited bowing down on a stone floor. So here's Isaac's question, right? Ihachi my area Rav. So why? So here you are. Why everybody else is bowing down? Why did Rav not bow down? Afilu kulanam. Everybody else is bowing. Kamei de Rav Havi, in front of Rav, where Rav was standing, I guess in the front of the shul in some place. At that point, it was a stone. The floor over there was stone. Where the rest of the congregation was, maybe it was just a dirt floor, whatever it was. Their buildings were built that way. What?
They had little carpets.
They had little carpets, whatever they had. And anyway, where Rav found himself in the shul, there was stone in front of him. So they say, okay, so stone there. So let him leave his spot. I guess it was some kind of an honor place that they had placed him, and let him go down and be with everybody and say Tachanan for Lilpol Alnap, and then he could say Tachanan with everybody. So they say, lo boy lemidrach tzibur. He didn't want to put the congregation to a lot of trouble, because when Rav stands up to move, what does everybody have to do? Everybody's got to stand up. So here they are getting ready to bow down for Tachanun, and Rav is going to go and stay. So he didn't want to annoy the people. So he didn't do it. V boy Yisema. Another way you could understand this is Rav Pishut Yadayim V'Raglayim Hava of it. Rav had the custom when he would bow down, he would extend his arms and legs also. Uchadu Ula, and according to Ula, Amar Ula, the Ula says Lo Asra Torah Ela Pishut Yadayim V'Raglayim Bilvad, and what the Torah prohibited was this extended kind of bowing, lipal al abe, but just to fall on a person's face, lo lehevet pishit v'raglayim yadayim v'raglayim, and bowing that way. So the way that we do it is we kind of put our arm out and we kind of bow on our arm, and his custom was to spread himself out completely. So lo mishanim in hagi, and he didn't want to not do what the people were doing, because they were doing it a certain way. So he didn't want to do that because his custom was to bow completely, prostrate himself. So he decided basically to not go along with what the congregation was doing, just do it on his own. So v'lipul al ape v'lo le'eved pishu raglayim. So because he didn't want to change his custom. And again, v'boy sema. If you want to say also adam choshev shani, that an important person is different in the way he conducts himself with the congregation. Kid Rabbi Elazar, as Rabbi Elazar said, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Ein Adam Choshev Rasha Lipul Al Panav, an exalted person, a high-level person, is not permitted to fall on his face, Elim Kein Nana Ki Yeshua Ben Nun, unless he knows for sure that his prayer is going to be answered. Because if he goes to this great extent to pray publicly and to bow down and spread himself out and so on, and then his prayer is not answered, it could cause people to have a lower opinion of great people. So unless he's sure, as Yoshua ben Nun was sure that his prayer was going to be answered, that's why he bowed that way, so a person should not do it. Because the Ksiv, Vayomer Hashem al Yeshua, Kum Lech, that Hashem said to Yeshua, get up and go, because Yeshua had bowed down, but he was confident that his prayer was going to be answered. Now that we're on the subject of bowing, the Gemara is going to tell us three different ways that people used to, and maybe some people still do. Tana Rabbanan, Kida. So the first type of bowing is called Kida, where a person like falls on his face, and the reason that we're doing that is to show the fact that our own intellect is used for the service of God. So Kida is alapine. You fall on your face because you're showing that your mind is subject to the will of God. Shneimar v'tikod Basheva apayim eretz. And there's a pasuk about Basheva that says that she bowed down in that way. Kriya, which is the bending of the knee. Al berkayim, that's on the knees. V'cheinu omer, and it says about Shlomo HaMelech, mechroa al birkov, that he bowed, he bent his knee. That's to show that his body, all his physical, all the attributes of his body were also subject to the will of God. Hishtachava, which is spreading out and bowing down with your arms and legs extended. So that one, zu pisha yadayim raglayim, and that is this prostrating yourself, shenamar. And here Yaakov is chastising his son Yosef. He says to him, when Yosef brings the dream to his father and tells him that you're going to be bowing, all the stars and the moon and will all be bowing to me, he said, are we, your brothers and your mother and I, are we going to bow down to you like that? So that is Yaakov speaking, and that shows that all human activities are subject to the will of God. And just as an aside, when Yaakov made that statement, he knew that the statement he was making was not really an accurate statement, didn't he? Right. Why? Come on, Bo Korah, you got to know this one.
I didn't hear the question,
So what Yaakov is saying to Yosef, he says, "Havo navo ani v'imcha v'achecha l'shtachavos l'cha arza." Are your mother and I and all your brothers going to bow down to you? Is that what you're saying? So Yaakov knew that was never going to happen. Why? Be-
His wife was dead.
his wife was dead. Right. So Yosef's mother was really not alive. And basically what Yaakov was doing was trying to like relieve the tension between Yosef and his brothers by criticizing Yosef, in a way, you know, when kids have a fight and the parent yells at one of the kids, the other ones are happy. So maybe that's what Yaakov was doing in this case. And so of course some of the Meforshim say that he meant the concubine that raised Yosef, because when Yosef's mother died, he was raised by by Bilhah, I think. But anyway,
Yeah, because
There's also another shot that Yaakov is validating the dream.
Yaakov was validating the dream.
Validating, because Yoviv Shomares Adavar relates to.
Right, because he says that he like kept it inside. He knew he knew it was going to be happening. Okay, so now Levi. Now this kida, which apparently was a very difficult, almost an acrobatic act, where they kind of bent at the waist and touched the face to the floor. Levi achavai, and they would support themselves on their thumbs in some way. Levi achavai kida kamed rav to Rav,
that's me.
the Rebbe. So Levi, who was, I guess, the favorite student of Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and Levi was demonstrating for Rav how you actually did this. And he did it. He managed to bend over Vidla, but he became lame as a result. He, I guess, dislocated his hip somehow or other, and he never was able to walk normally after that. So, but the Gemara says, "V'haka garmel." Is that what caused his physical problem? And we know that there's a Gemara elsewhere in the Masechta Tanis, which talks about when public fasts are declared, because certain cases, and the most prominent is when there's no rain, when there's a drought for a period of time. So they would declare a public fast. And what happened in that case, for Hamar, is that what caused his lameness? For Hamar Rabbi Elazar says, Olam al yatiach adam devarim klape mala, that a person should never complain or speak in a disrespectful way. And what happened with Levi, that he declared a fast and he davened, and it didn't start raining yet. And he basically spoke to Hashem complaining in a way. He said, I did what I'm supposed to do, and you didn't bring rain. And that was considered for a person of his stature to be a disrespectful way to speak. And according to Rabbi Elazar, he says that Sharei Adam Gadol, right, Hitiach Devarim Klape Malav Idla, that an important person complained to God, basically spoke the wrong way to God, and he became lame. Umanu, Levi. And who are they talking about? That's discussed. That's referring to Levi. So the Gemara answers Hava Ha Garmale, but both of these causes. In other words, Levi physically he hurt himself by bending over, and also he put himself into a bad spot by having complained to God. So Amar Rav Chia Bar Oven. So Rav Chia Bar Oven said, just to put a close on this discussion, Chazina Lahula Abaye V'Rava. And he happened to see Abaye and Rava in shul davening, and they did not bow in this exaggerated kind of way. They basically bent at the waist, and that's what they did. And so why did they do that way? Because they were at the status that they didn't want it wouldn't look nice for them to bend over that way. And just to conclude, so we don't have stone floors, most of us, in our shuls, and yet on Yom Kippur you see people bowing, and you'll see them putting down a cloth in front of them, and that's because people believe even if the floor, not necessarily a stone floor, but a hard surface type thing, even if it's covered with a carpet, the way ours is, you still put a little cover in front of you. So you'll see some people are doing it, some people are not doing it. But this is really the source for why people do that on Yom Kippur when they're bowing. And we're just going to continue a little bit more, and we'll continue with this discussion next week. So B'Yom Tov Chamisha, B'Yom Kippurim Shisha, and we know that on Yom Tov 5 people read, on Yom Kippur it is 6. Masnis and Manis, who is the author of this mission? It says that Lo Rabbi Yishmael v'lo Rabbi Akiva. It's not Rabbi Yishmael, it's not Rabbi Akiva. the Sanya, because we learned B'Yom Tov Chamisha, B'Yom HaKippurim Shisha. So on Yom Tov 5, on Yom Kippur 6, the B'Shabbos Shiva, Ein Pochasin Mehen Ve'Ein Mosifin Alein. Okay, so what we learned is that our Mishnah says that on Yom Kippur it's 6, on Shabbos it's 7. You don't increase the other days, but Shabbos you can. Hear this quote. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says that on Shabbos you do not add Hosafos. So obviously the Mishnah can't be going and hit like him. Rabbi Kiva says Yom Tov Chamisha. So far so good. Yom Kippurim Shiva. But Rabbi Kiva said on Yom Kippur 7 people were called up. Rabbi Shabbos Shisha, and on Shabbos 6. Ein Pochasin Mehen Avol Masivin Alein. And we don't do fewer than 6 on Shabbos, but you can do more. Mani, so who then is the source of our Mishnah? Rabbi Shmuel, Kasha Tosefes. If we're going to say it's Rabbi Shmuel, so it's that doesn't make sense because he says you can't increase. Rabbi Akiva, Kasha Shisha V'Shiva. So this 6 and 7 are reversed. So if you're going to say Rabbi Akiva is the one that wrote our Mishnah, so there's a difference there because he says that it's 6 on Yom Kippur and 7 on Shabbos. Amar Rava, so try to clear it up. Rava said, Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel it's from the yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel. The Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, because in his yeshiva was learned Yom Tov Chamisha, on Yom Tov 5, Yom Kippur Shisha, on Yom Kippur 6, B'Shabbos Shiva, on Shabbos 7 people were called up, Ein Pochasim Mehen Avol Mosifin Alein. Same as our Mishnah. You do not do fewer than 6 on Yom Kippur, fewer than 7 on Shabbos, and on Shabbos you can add Hosafos. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel. So again, they quote Rabbi Shmuel. Kasha to Rabbi Shmuel. So there seems to be a contradiction between what Rabbi Shmuel is saying. So one case he's quoted as saying it one way, and one case he's quoted as saying it a different way. So they answer Terei Tanai Aliba to Rabbi Shmuel. There's 2 people who are basically quoting Rabbi Shmuel, and it happens very frequently. You know, people quote the great people, right? How many people quote Reb Moshe? And it seems like they're quoting him in different ways. But basically, the quote is that what we seem to think was quoted directly from Rabbi Shmuel is somehow contradictory, but we're not really sure. And in the end, the way that we do it is that on Kippur 6 people called up, on Shabbos 7 are called up, and we do allow Hosafos on Shabbos. Next week we'll continue.